Hello, and welcome to my presentation on Odin. My name is Robert McNutt, and we'll get right into it. So, Odin was a god in the Old Norse religion, founded in Scandinavia. The time frame was around 790 to 1100 CE, and it was a polytheistic religion, meaning that they believed in many gods. And the Norse worldview changed when Christianity was made more public, but they just added Christ to their lengthy list of gods. There were four phases of the Norse worldview. First phase was the creation of the world. Second was the creation of everything in the world. Third phase was the destruction of the world in the Ragnarok. And the last phase was the arising of the new world from the sea. The first phase, the creation of the world, there were two opposing realms of fire and ice with a void between them. Over time, the cold and heat expanded and ended up meeting together. The fire ended up melting the ice, and then out of the ice, two figures emerged: Ymir, who is a giant, and Adhumla, who is shaped as a cow. In the creation of everything in the world, there are the first three gods, who are Odin, Vili, and Ve. They killed Ymir and used his remains to create everything in the world. So they created the earth from his flesh, the sky from his skull, mountains from his bones, and the sea from his blood. The third phase was in the Ragnarok and the destruction of the world. So it all started off with the terrible winter, and then the earth sank into the sea. Fenrir, who is a wolf, broke loose and he devoured the sun. Yggdrasil broke the bridge between Asgard and the Midgard, and then after that, the gods were very upset and they began a war. So the god I'm focusing on for this presentation is Odin, and he was fighting Fenrir, but he lost. In the fourth phase, the new world arose from the sea, but just a handful of gods were still standing. So, Odin was one of the first gods to appear in Norse mythology, and he is commonly referred to as the All-Father. His goal was to just seek more wisdom, knowledge, and discernment. A distinguishing feature of Odin is that he only has one eye. So there's three stories about Odin, and when he went to seek wisdom and knowledge. The first story is Mimir at the well. Mimir was a guard of the well, and he knew that the waters in the well contained valuable wisdom. So instead of giving Odin a drink from the water right away, he required Odin to sacrifice an eye. So Odin gored out an eye, and Mimir allowed him to quench his thirst by drinking from the well. Odin lived the rest of his life with a single eye, but he had a lot of wisdom. The interpretation of this myth is that Odin gave up his worldly vision for internal wisdom. So he exchanged his physical eye for wisdom on the inside. The second story about Odin wanting to seek wisdom is deciphering runes that were inscribed on trees. So Odin knew that the runes only revealed themselves to those who are worthy. So he hung himself on a tree, pierced himself with a spear in his side, and denied any help from all the other gods. He hung on the tree and peered upon the runes with an intense focus. And then after 9 days, bouncing between life and death, he was finally able to reveal the secrets of the runes. The interpretation of this myth is that Odin had to sacrifice a part of himself in order for another part to gain wisdom and knowledge. The third story of seeking wisdom is when he ventured into a mountain to drink a mead. So Odin made a deal with the guardian to obtain 3 sips of mead after he slept with her for 3 nights, and her name was Gunnlod. But instead, Odin consumed 3 whole vats of mead, flew off to Asgard in the shape of an eagle, where he regurgitated some of the mead so he could dispense it to others at will. So the mead was giving people knowledge. The interpretation of this story is that knowledge and wisdom is meaningless if you can't share it with others. Odin was always pursuing wisdom and knowledge, but he wanted to be able to share his wisdom and knowledge with others. In American Gods, Odin was represented by Mr. Wednesday. Wednesday was first introduced to Shadow on an airplane in the very beginning. He knew about Shadow's life, but Shadow did not know Wednesday. Shadow was recruited to work for Wednesday, and then he accepted a job at the bar. To seal their agreement, Mr. Wednesday bought Shadow 3 glasses of mead and had Shadow consume those mead. And that's the first connection to the mythology of Odin. Odin, in Norse mythology, made a deal with the guard to drink 3 sips of mead because Odin knew the mead was going to give him wisdom. Odin actually drank 3 vats of mead so that he could regurgitate the mead and share the wisdom with others. Shadow was curious why he was given mead to drink at the bar, and Wednesday said, "It seals our bargain. You work for me, you protect me, you help me, you transport me from place to place, you investigate from time to time, go places, ask questions for me, you run errands, in an emergency, but only an emergency, you hurt people who need to be hurt." The mythology of Odin referred to Odin as the Allfather, and he's also represented as the Allfather in American Gods. Wednesday is always one step ahead of everyone, and he's always in charge. Wednesday is also very wise, and he wants to share his wisdom with Shadow. Another similarity to the mythology of Odin is when Shadow is killed and hung from a tree with a knife in his side. A quote from the book is, "Shadow hung limply from the ropes that tied him to the tree. Mr. Town wondered if the man were still alive. His chest did not rise or fall. Dead or almost dead, it did not matter." This death is the same death that Odin had in Norse mythology when he went to decipher the runes that were inscribed on the trees. And these are the works cited, and thank you very much.